is Zalm, and it's a beautiful Saturday evening in the beautiful land of Australia. And here I am again with a story with the salvation, the process of salvation of the Israelites who've been afflicted in the land of Egypt, in the land of the tyrant, under the rule of the Pharaoh. Well, the story goes Moses is actually the assigned leader to save the Israelites from the tyranny. As it turns out, Moses is not a very good communicator. So he is assigned his brother Aaron to help him in the salvation of the Israelites. Now, why actually provide salvation to the Israelites anyway? As it turns out, Israelites were mighty and they had a lot of strength as compared to the Egyptians in the land in which they resided. They stood out. And more affliction that they had, the stronger they grew. That's a very interesting idea. It just goes back to the idea where it says, where it goes, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Right. Well, now Moses is very doubtful of how to convince so many Israelites to leave the land of Egypt, because why would they listen to Moses in the first place anyway? So the Lord actually showed Moses 3 miracles that he could perform in front of the Israelites to make them believe Moses that he was sent by God to save them. Now, the interesting idea is why 3 miracles? And these miracles were not short of anything really miraculous. Because one of them was like, Lord asked Moses to put his hand into his bosom. And when the hand came out of his bosom, it was leprous, it was diseased. And when he put his hand back in again into his bosom, and when it came back out again, it was cured. So these miracles were nothing short of wondrous. It's not something that you see every single day. Well, probably it takes 3 miracles for a hopeless populace to regain their faith in the divine. In life, there are points where you're so hopeless that you probably one miracle is not good enough to pull you out of the sea of doubt and misery. So that's why I think 3 miracles were required for Moses to perform to make the Israelites believe in God, or for the Israelites to believe that God had sent Moses to save them. As it goes, Moses was not particularly good at communication, so he was assigned his younger brother Aaron. So now it's 2 men on a mission to save the children of God, to save the Israelites, those who wrestle with God and men, from the land of Egypt. Well, the Pharaoh, he's very stubborn. He's a very stubborn guy. He wouldn't let the Israelites go because he wants to satisfy his ego. He wants to be the tyrant who wouldn't let freedom touch the slaves. So obviously there were consequences to that, and the consequences were the infliction, the release of numerous plagues upon the land of Egypt. And the interesting thing is, it took quite a few plagues to be inflicted on the land of Egypt before the Pharaoh came to his senses. And these plagues were no joke. They were basically boils popping up, frogs everywhere, locusts that ate their grains, hail, fire, water turning to blood. But every single time, the Pharaoh, being the stubborn person, being the tyrant he was, he wouldn't learn. And a few of the times he'd say, after each plague, please stop this plague, I will let the people go. But then he wouldn't. That comes back to the human life again. You think that you can stop doing a particular habit, but then you make a promise, and then you go back to that habit that is not necessarily for your own benefit. I like the quote, the history will repeat itself until you learn from it. That's exactly right. because because I don't see any alternative, because until you learn from that particular experience, of course it's gonna repeat itself. So it can be in the case of relationships, you can be attracted to the same kind of person again and again and again, until you learn that probably that's not the right type of person for you. Or you can be doing something that is not necessarily good for you again and again and again until you learn from it, right? That is very obvious, but it's not so obvious to how to get away from those kinds of habits. Probably it takes 10 plagues for you to realize the answer, the solution. One of them, one of the ways to get rid of the same experience is that to learn from it. What can I do better? Let's say if you are in a relationship with the wrong kind of person, if you're getting into this relationship with same kind of person again and again and again, you can probably start with just respecting yourself. Second, you can learn some methods where you realize what each action means. You can see how their moments are. What are they saying versus what they're doing? Drawing similarities from previous experiences. Well, it can be a start. It's not a foolproof plan, but it can be a good start. Well, the last plague is what actually teaches the Pharaoh what he really needs to learn. Well, the last plague was the one that actually snapped. The last plague was the one that actually hammered some sense into Pharaoh, and he was finally convinced. The plague was very dangerous. So it was basically the death of the children in the land of Egypt. The only way to save yourself from that was to put the blood of the sacrifice on the doors. Obviously, the Egyptians did not know this, only the Israelites knew of this. So they made sacrifices and put the blood on the door. That's again a very interesting idea. Making sacrifice act. So what's happening is, if they put the blood of their sacrifice on the door, death would actually pass over their house. That is where the word Passover came from, passing over. So the death is actually passing over you just because you made the sacrifice. That's a very interesting idea. So probably death does pass over you when you make the necessary sacrifice. Well, like I mentioned before, Pharaoh was actually convinced, and he would let the people, Israelites, go. And obviously, Moses, he would not go away easily. He actually asked people to take all the precious metals, everything, enough ration for them to journey into the wilderness to praise God. Well, guys, this is the beginning of a great journey ahead, and I look forward to discussing this amazing story in the Bible next week. I wish you guys all the best.